Welcome to the Arizona Pickleball League podcast, presented by Jigsaw Health. It's fun to feel good. And now, your hosts, Ashley LaRue and the Orchard Security Guy.
What is up, Arizona Pickleball family? This is Patrick Sullivan Jr. coming at you with the Orchard Security Guy. OSG, it's been a few minutes since we've been on the pod. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Been super busy here at the Orchard and getting things ready to ramp up for this fall.
So exciting. Orchard Security Guy, have you had a chance to watch any of Breaking Pickleball, the documentary that we filmed here in the Orchard last year? Did you get a chance to watch any of that?
Yes, I've watched it several times, all episodes, and fantastic. Fantastic.
So on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best, what would you give it?
Yeah, if I could go higher than 5, I could.
You
would.
can.
Yeah,
I'll allow it.
Well, I'm going to go right up around 12, 13 then.
Fantastic number. Well, with us today, sitting to my left, Cole Uphaus, the creator, the documentarian, the filmmaker of Breaking Pickleball. Cole, welcome in today. How are you feeling today?
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here. I'm feeling great.
No, you're not. Don't lie.
I'm not, actually. I was asking you to not
You
do
hate this. You would rather be behind the camera.
I am kind
Is
of
that
shaking
correct?
right now, actually, if I'm being honest.
Can we do a selfie real quick?
You want to do a, let's get a selfie from the OSG Polaroid, tiny Polaroid. Ready?
There we go. Should be ready by the time we get done.
Perfect. I'm glad you memorialized that.
Yeah.
Cole, take us back. Actually, let me give a little bit more context. You just, with the team, Jigsaw Productions, put out the world's first pickleball documentary. Did the world need a pickleball documentary? Probably not. But we made it anyway, so folks, you can be the judge and find out. All 6 episodes are available to watch right now for free. We're doing a private web release, but if you go to breakingpickleball.com, sign up with your good email address, we will send you a private YouTube link, and you'll also be entered to win a free SELKIRK paddle for the rest of your life. So go to breakingpickleball.com. Cole, now, with that in mind, take us back to February 2023. Almost 15 months ago when I first spoke to you about, hey, I think we might want to do a documentary.
We hopped on a Zoom call. You, me, and Corey, the director of video production here at Jigsaw. And Corey kind of mentioned, hey, we're thinking about a documentary. You want to hop on a call with me and Patrick? And I said, yeah, sure. You can pick my brain and we can talk about it. That turned into a 4-hour call, and he said, we want to do this series. Do you want to do it? Also, we're starting in a week, and we're going to get going pretty quickly. And I learned quickly that's how Jigsaw operates. Nothing out of the ordinary there. So
speed is a feature, Cole.
Yeah, I quickly caught on to that one. So, yeah, you, myself, and Corey, we talked for very quickly, and normally in any big production, you've got months of pre-production. We were talking for about 4 hours then, and that was about it. And we had to put the team together, decide who's doing what, get the cameras, and then just get going. And the speed at which you just talked about, how fast we just got going was, I think, unprecedented, and we should win some awards for just how quickly we got things up and running.
I think we should be nominated for the Flash Gordon Award.
Yeah.
The reason we moved so quickly, we invented the Arizona Pickleball League at the end of January, Ashley and I, almost on a whim, because things with the PPA, basically, we decided to discontinue that relationship. And we said, well, we built this big, beautiful indoor pickleball facility. What are we going to do with it? And the idea of the Arizona Pickleball League, a team format for pickleball, kind of happened over dinner. We played the first match on Tuesday, January 31st with the Tempe Tornadoes and the Scottsdale Scorchers to a packed house, and it was electric in here. OSG, take us back to that first match. You remember scrambling to get that off the ground.
Yes. Well, at that time, just got done training with the dogs. So luckily they were with me. We had everything ready to go in that standpoint. And it was a blast. It was hectic. I checked all the cameras out that we got for the documentary, and they all checked out good. So off we went.
Yeah, it was I said it on camera. If you've seen it, if you've seen even the trailer, it was used, and it came out. Frank, when we filmed in my living room, Cole, you asked, like, why did you hire us to do this documentary? Why do you and Ashley want to do this project? And I was struggling that day, sort of figuring out why it was, and the words that came out of my mouth were, if we absolutely crash and burn with the Arizona Pickleball League, we should at least get it on tape. Mm-hmm. And the rest of that statement, in my mind, even to this day, is because even if we fail, I feel like it'll still be an interesting story of effort, of trying to get there. And Ashley and I at the time had just been watching Welcome to Wrexham. We finished season 1, and we were super inspired by that. Maybe, Cole, talk about how that conversation, and I was bringing up Welcome to Wrexham, and I think you had only just heard of it, but you hadn't watched it.
Yeah. Were we talking about that in your living room? Was that when it first came out?
I think so. Or I remember talking when I was on the phone walking around the Fountain Hills Park, and well, I'll save that for something else, but we were talking about Wrexham, and I was like, it's just such a great story of people trying to succeed, to make something great. Yeah. And that just really resonated with me, and I saw the opportunity for us to do that with season 1 of the Arizona Pickleball League.
Yeah, it was Wrexham that's such a great documentary, and it's a story of underdogs, and that really is an underdog story. I was watching it at the same time, and I was like, yeah, this story is so engaging, and you at the same time were like, it's freaking awesome. Yeah. And so we kind of benchmarked against that series as it was already out, because we were saying, hey, Wrexham was a what are they, National League? Is that
National League is the league they were in? Yeah,
they were in the
lower
league.
Tier leagues in the English Premier Football League system.
Mm-hmm. So they were the smallest league trying to get promoted to the bigger league with community and players that weren't the best but trying to be the best. And we saw that we're like, oh, we're not the biggest tour, but we're not the best players, but we've got this small community. We've got all these. We are kind of the pickleball underdog in the same way. So. We don't have Ryan Reynolds. We have close to that with Orchid Security Guy.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we went and just ran with it.
I remember on that walk around Fountain Hills Park, which was one of the locations that we filmed at, actually. That was kind of a fun place to do. But I remember talking to you and saying, is this a project that you feel like you can tackle? And your answer was, part of my 5-year plan is to do a year-long project where I follow from point A to point B and turn that all into a docuseries. So if I get this done in the first year of my 5-year plan, I'll be pretty happy.
Forgot I said that. Yeah.
I remember. So tell us what this last year has been like for you, Cole.
Oh, man, what a year it was. Gosh, I really said that?
You did.
Wow, okay. Yeah, it's crazy to think about how far. That feels like it was 10 years ago. I mean, how much work went into this thing. Yeah, my gosh. I mean, just being a part of this team, the creation of this project. I'm a very young filmmaker, so doing something of this magnitude relatively early in my career was something I don't want to say unprepared for, but we all went into this thing pretty blind. I remember, you said, "What's the kind of the thing?" And my running joke, not really joke, the whole time was, "This, it's doable. We'll see if it gets done, though. I don't know if it will, but we'll see."
You must have said that at least a dozen times. Yeah. Let me ask you, through the making of this process. So the process was essentially from March to June was principal photography. filming all of the scenes that, the matches that happened here at the Orchard. But then you also went around to, a lot of different locations, players' houses. And then from that scene, it's sort of like you end up with hundreds of hours of footage that you kind of comb through for, I would say, at least 4 or 5 months. And then I feel like in November, that was when we started to get rough cuts of like, here are the pieces that I think of the story that fit together. And then from November to basically March, that last 4 months was the pruning and pairing and pruning and pairing and all that work to put all the fine touches on. But let's go back. So if there's 3 parts, 3 segments, if you will, which part was like the most difficult?
The biggest hill to climb was as soon as principal photography wrapped in June and all the creative team, everybody took, I don't know, maybe it feels like 24 hours off and then it was back to work,
I don't think I gave anybody that much time off. That doesn't sound like me.
As soon as we went back from principal and got into editing, I think it was around 30 terabytes of footage to start with. And throughout all the principal photography, we're kind of...
Hold on real quick. 30 terabytes, is that a lot?
How many floppy disks is that? Is that a lot of floppy disk? Because that's what I use.
3.5 or 5 and a quarter?
I think the 3.5 one. Is that a lot of,
It's a lot of discs.
Okay.
I don't want to date myself, so I'll leave the...
He doesn't know what a floppy disk is. To him, it's all in the cloud, man.
No.
It's on the line.
Somewhere up there.
It was probably 10 floppy disks.
So 10 floppy disks worth of information.
Okay.
Jeez. We should keep good track. We should keep track of those. Those could be a collector's item someday.
Good.
So you had 10 floppy disks worth of data to go through, and then what happened?
You're staring there with, we have all of our minimal pre-production there of this is the direction we're going, this is the story we're telling, but what is the right story? It's buried within there. You've just got to dig it out. And at that juncture on any production, it's so intimidating when you're just starting and you have so much footage to cull through.
How many hours in reality?
So what about this? Episode 1 was how long?
Episode 1,
43 minutes.
Yeah.
43?
43.
When you first put episode 1 together, how many hours of footage did you have?
About 8 hours. If we just took every scene raw, uncut in a timeline and just strewn out, it was 8 hours of footage to whittle down to 43 minutes of, and that's 8 hours of essentially interview pretty much from everybody that's involved in that episode. And then cull that down to the what's usable, and then plug in your establishing shots, your verite scenes, and all the moments that make it flow, and then music and everything underneath. It's just like, it's one of those things to think about. I brought this up, and when we met after the theatrical premiere of Breaking Pickleball, that you think back to the work that was done, and there's a J.R.R. Tolkien quotes this. There's an old monastic saying of kind of the journey of holiness. Thinking about the work that was done to the finished work back to the beginning, God is my witness. I would rather walk to Rome on foot than do it all again, is kind of the attitude, because it's just like, gosh dang, we did so much work to do this. And this was just a documentary series. This wasn't a Hollywood premiere of a big, IMAX something, but this was
beg to differ. It's still 3 hours of beautiful footage. And it started with how many hours, like in those 30 terabytes is how many hours of footage? 100?
Oh, gosh, way more than that.
Like 105?
Yeah, now you're getting closer.
110?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
a
close
lot.
now.
Okay, now that's a lot.
I mean, if you just think about it, we were shooting from end of February to mid-June, principal, and that was 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Shooting for 8 hours, some days 10 hours. Some days were 12-hour days, some days were just 4-hour days. But it's, just saying it out loud, it's like, wow, it's so much work, so much footage that you're just going through and capturing, and that's documentary. You know, you have a plan of what you want to capture, and you do your best to be assertive as a filmmaker and capture that with interviews and verite scenes. But a lot of it is crossing your fingers and hoping that all this does come together in the end. There's a lot of times in season 1 where, am I allowed to say spoilers or anything right now?
Yeah, I'll stop you if it gets too far.
I'll
just don't talk maybe about the championship or something.
Yeah, I'll say whoever did.
OSG with his finger right on the button of the microphone here.
There was in the final regular season game this story that I was really hoping unfolded. If one team won and the other team lost, I remember being back here in the production booth and saying, if this team wins right now, I'm going to lose my mind because this ruins everything. And so it was a...
Actually, now that I know what you're talking about, be more specific, because I think the audience tuning in, most of you guys, I hope, have already watched Breaking Pickleball, and I think this will be very interesting. So going into week 10, the Stingers were playing against the Pythons.
Yes.
And the Stingers and the Scorchers were basically, this match determined the last spot of the playoffs.
Yes.
And you had captured a lot of footage for the Scorchers. The Stingers, however, one of the players that you were originally following for the Stingers, she was dropped.
Yes.
So all of that footage is essentially gone. And then
there was essentially
10,
with the Stingers player, and so that's why the Stingers are not super involved in Breaking Pickleball, because
they're 0-8.
They're terrible.
Yeah, you should have muted that. Where were you on that one?
Scott, forgive me, Scotty. I'm really sorry, but
GM of the Stingers, Scott Kilpatrick. He would laugh at that comment, but also he would say fair. And Stingers were not terrible. They just had such a difficult season 1 and season 2. They went 0-4, 0-4, but they had a lot of very entertaining matches, and their point differential was not that bad. So Stingers and Stingers fans, we love you, and we can't wait for you to have a kick-ass team in the fall of 2024.
Exactly.
Okay, caveats aside, go back to what you were saying.
So we had all the Stingers story that the individual we were following was kind of confidentiality. They didn't want to be featured any longer after getting dropped from the league. So the Stinger story was just kind of abandoned. We did some other creative stuff to weave them into the narrative. However, that week 10, there was so much going on with the Scorchers, as you see in the documentary, that their story, there's a lot of drama, so to speak. And so in that week 10, I was banking on the Scorchers winning from a creative standpoint, because I was thinking, this is the most interesting story.
Yes.
But if the Stingers happened to have beat the Pythons, the Scorchers would have been out of the playoffs and the Stingers would have been in. I would have had nothing to tell a story on with the Stingers, and the group that I was really hoping to follow would have been out. And so I think it was, am I remembering correctly that that game at halftime was actually pretty close, the Stingers and Pythons?
I believe that it was.
Oh, yeah. It was close.
We could get a fact check from RJ.
I was
week 10 score, RJ.
Very sweaty back here. I was in the back here in the production booth at halftime talking to you. I was like, if the Stingers freaking win this game of all games, I'm out of here.
The documentary is over, because if we can't tell the rest of, if the Scorcher story ends here, its documentary is basically going to be a flop.
Yeah, it's just going to be, and that's one of those things that I was saying earlier. At least in terms of a sports documentary,
a lot of risk.
You hope for the best, kind of. Maybe better filmmakers would disagree, but
well, I know I've heard the phrase "hope is not a strategy," but certainly I do feel like whatever would have occurred, you captured so much great footage, and the characters in the league, the players that we had, the GMs that we had, the story of us as a production team trying to make the Orchard and the Arizona Pickleball League successful. I think that we could have salvaged it one way or the other, but thankfully the Scorchers did make it through to the playoffs. We won't give any spoilers past that, but the I want to actually turn to the playoff matches, because when you started to show us some of the early cuts in November, we had a big long day at my house. You, me, Corey, Ashley, and Jamie, our creative director, and we made some kind of big moves then on how to shape and how to frame each episode. What are your memories of that day? Because it was kind of a rough day for you, right? You're like, okay, I got to go show my teacher my homework, and I know it's not fully baked, it's not fully done.
Yeah.
But this is the person paying my paycheck. I gotta show them
something.
I gotta show something. I can't just stay in my office for forever. What was that day like for you?
Yeah, those are so not fun when you're.
Thank you for your honesty.
Your heart and soul is in it, and somebody else is, not flippantly, but just like, oh yeah, I don't like that, and you're kind of like, I get it, that sucks. All right, I'll change it. We at that time there were 8 episodes.
Maybe 7. But yeah, we started at 8. We ended up with 6. I think we did
combined
down to
and
7.
comb some stuff. Yeah, that day. Yeah, actually thinking about how different the episodes actually each were, what scenes were included and what we took out and then added back in between now and then. A lot changed in 6 months. So that meeting, that was everybody's first sit down of watching, essentially through the show and just kind of getting a feel for it. So we looked at what beats were working, what was confusing, what characters you didn't understand, and especially the game format, how we edited each game. I think Corey, the director of video production, the other editor, he tackled all the games because I don't
think he had gotten into the game footage yet, though. In November.
That's right. It was all actually pretty raw, and we just kind of skipped it for the most part and said, yeah, this person won, this person lost.
I remember that meeting. So I feel like I've done enough creative projects in my life to know that the peaks and the valleys are real, and you will always hit both of them. And one peak is like when you have an amazing moment that you capture on camera, or if you're a guitar player like me, you play the riff so perfectly, or like you invented a new riff that you're like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. And then the valleys, which seem to be actually more common and also maybe more difficult, are those like, is anyone going to care?
Yeah.
Is this actually going to work?
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to finish this? And November had a little bit of both of those moments for me, where especially watching the matches, the first round of how the matches were edited into the story was kind of confusing.
Yes.
And it was like, I'm not sure who to follow. And I know all these players and I know all these characters. And one of the things, well, there's 2 things, but one of the things that Corey really did once he took over is Corey thought of each match as a battle scene. And he's like, in a battle, there's a character right before the battle that we give you some exposition on, and then we follow that character into battle. So he looked at the matches as like, here's what we're going to do. The second thing that we did, and this was actually closer to picture lock in end of sort of, I guess January, February, was, okay, episode 5, we have 4 teams, all 4 characters that we've introduced in the previous 4 episodes now battling against each other.
Yeah.
How do we tell this story without it being confusing? Am I happy for the winners or am I sad for the losers? And the direction and the way that you and Corey implemented, not as a spoiler, but basically we went with, okay, we're gonna lean into sad for the losers of these matches, because this is essentially the end of their story. It's not the end of the story for the winners. They get to move on to episode 6. That move creatively, like, did the whole thing for me. It was chef's kiss. It was perfect. Maybe talk about that and what it was like once that decision was made.
I would say one of the biggest difficulties of this whole project was actually that this has never been done before in terms of a documentary around pickleball. There's probably 24 either featured series or films being produced across the country right now on the sport. We were the first to complete a project. And so with that, there's no.
Do you want to hold this?
Is that a?
Save that for the end.
we didn't know how to actually initially do a game. You know, we didn't know how to edit for a series. How do you show a pickleball match on camera?
Yeah.
How do you convey that energy, especially the format?
And compare it to soccer.
Right, with Wrexham, like our benchmark. Because and if you're editing a lot of sports, whether it's football's a sport where if you watch Last Chance U, you can pick apart the moments of maybe there was a 30-yard pass that was completed or the running back broke away, and you can pick apart those plays. Soccer is so easy because you can just, they scored it at this moment, they scored at this moment, and that's all you have to show, and then you get the gist of it.
Right.
Pickleball, especially the format of season 1, it's just constant. Basketball is probably similar to a difficulty of editing where it's like, what is important to show? What's
Which
important
rallies
to not
do you
to show?
include,
Yes.
and which rallies do you take out?
Yes. And so Corey, the genius behind having that kind of battle theory of editing stuff, he tackled the games. I was editing all the story beats and everybody at their house, and I was like, I don't know if people will, hate me for saying this, but I'm not in the pickleball world at all. I don't know pickleball.
Well, you are now.
I am now. I'm
Forget
very
about the
acquainted.
trophy.
Yes, keep that.
Never touching that again.
So the initial cuts when I was editing games, you were kind of like, I don't get it. And I was like, I don't even.
Yeah. Cole, what's happening in this match? I don't know. I saw Kyle hit an Ernie, so I put that in there.
That looked cool, so I feel like that was important.
Yeah, I think that the folks at home really don't. If you look closely at the documentary, I think you'll sort of appreciate when the score is being shown on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear Ashley or another commentator talking and moving the match, moving the story forward, and even the music itself. Sometimes the music is positive, sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's a little downbeat. Like, those choices creatively, that process was so difficult, but I think it turned out amazing.
Yeah.
And I would say the reason, like the proof in the pudding, is Webby, one of our listeners. He might even be on. Hey, Webby. He wrote a comment on Facebook that was like, paraphrasing, my wife doesn't even like pickleball, but she binge watched this with me and she loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So to basically, kudos to you, kudos to Corey for taking footage of a sport that some people have never played or watched or didn't know anything about it, but they get the gist of it, they understand, and they fall in love, and they're rooting for Kyle or for Caden or for Chris or for Michael.
Yeah.
And I think that is what has basically gives us the chance to get on Netflix. Hi, Netflix, if you're out there watching or listening.
Yeah, so when we kind of had that game form, we figured out this is how we're editing games, and then going into after episode 5, like you were saying, and then we go to the playoffs where now you're more connected to each of these individuals, and we're going to show one of them's going to win, the other's going to lose. So how do you handle that? Initially, we were doing the cuts, and it was kind of following the winner and being excited for them, and it was a bit of a disconnect with, I'm happy for them, but what about this other person that is no longer in the league? And I pitched to the team just saying, it's kind of in lieu with my personality of enjoying melancholy and somber moments that I was like, I don't want to be
Thus
happy.
your Death Cab for Cutie
That's the
t-shirt
Death
that
Cab
you're
shirt.
wearing.
Yeah,
and the Fifth Wave emo band that you're filming a documentary feature
Give
for.
Strelitzia a shout out.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense for an artist. I think that makes sense.
I mean, and everything. But probably the biggest disagreement of the creative team, at least with me throughout the whole post-production, was me having that side of like, I like the heavier, sadder moments, and this needs to be happier. But in the instance of following the losers, I was happy because we could follow the sad parts where we watched it and we said, I don't.
For those that don't know, OSG's about to cut that microphone again because he doesn't like following the sad parts.
We were watching it and we said, I don't want to be happy that this team. I am happy for them, but I want to be sad for blank character who lost, and that was something that was a safe way to round out arcs and character stories and be able to say goodbye to maybe characters that you were hoping would win and they didn't. And that was something, those are probably some of my favorite moments of seeing just raw emotion and people and seeing a loser. I like that. There's something about that that's more in tune with real life. So,
OSG, what did you feel like was your favorite scene?
Episode 1 was really good.
It's real good. Episode 1.
That was really good.
Pretty sexy golfer.
I liked
minutes, which is an odd move for a pickleball documentary to spend, 3.5 minutes with a golf professional.
We had golf, we had basketball, we had pool.
You saw the conditions I worked in out there. I mean, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
There were, I thought, little things on every episode where you were saying earlier about the emotional part of it, even watching at the premiere, that I thought was really cool. All through the entire episodes, all the way to the finish. It was really, really cool.
Now, OSG, you were also the narrator of the documentary in several places, and there was a word that you had a little bit of difficulty with it. I wonder if you could say that word for all of us now.
Yeah, what was that?
Cumulative.
Oh, yeah. The type of scoring we did this year. Cumulative. Cumulative. I'm going to show you a trick on that I learned in programming. So if you're having trouble enunciating something like that, you'll do these 3 fingers, but I just do
Look
2.
at those fingers. Only 2 will fit.
Because he's
I got lockjaw. They made me do 3, and I got lockjaw for 2 days. But if you say it, cumulative.
Pretty
Getting
close.
close.
Look at that.
Do you want to take a go at it, Patrick?
That's free.
Another little insider thing that people may not know if you're watching, going back to the games. Ashley LaRue, my wife, my lovely wife and business partner, and the chief marketing officer of Jigsaw Health, during season 1, I think it was about week 6 or week 7, stepped into the booth to handle the play-by-play duties and did fantastic and enjoyed doing it. And we were like, okay, let's have Ashley be the voice during these matches. So we, in the editing process, went back through and we were actually sitting at this table recording Ashley saying, "Ooh, what a shot by Kyle," to lend to the documentary itself sort of some narrative and some audio that happened. One of my favorite parts that happened was we were like, okay, episode 5, the beginning, how do we tell the stingers sort of exiting stage left? And we wrote a quick little 1-2 sentence script, and we're like, well, who we're gonna get to do this right now, because we don't have we don't have anybody else here that could be sort of her co-commentator. So I said, Cole, why don't you try it? And it was the mumbliest, saddest.
Here's what I was mad about was I delivered a performance that I thought was pretty killer. Immediately after you said, let's have Cole narrate it, and I was sitting. Then I went, "You're what?
You're kidding,
No
right?"
way. But then I did it, and I delivered what a lot of would have said that was great. Immediately, probably not even before I was done, you said, "Yeah, I'll actually, never mind. I'm going to do this."
Yeah, I said I'm going to do it myself. I am not generally the world's greatest at delivering critiques, so I just get right in there and say, "Yeah, that's not going to work."
I was glad they didn't get in because my initial, you want me? You want my monotone drawl? as a narrator.
Oh
All
my
right.
goodness. So much time and effort went into Breaking Pickleball. Folks, if you haven't already, please go to breakingpickleball.com, sign up. You can watch all 6 episodes for free for the next week, although you heard it here first. Ashley is saying that Monk and Lola are saying, our 2 puppies, we should extend it by another week. So likely
What
we're
a
going to
deal.
extend that deadline. I know, what a deal. 6 episodes for free for 1 more week. I don't know. We'll see if Selkirk lets
That's
us do it.
Biden's America for you.
Amen. In this economy?
Yeah, crazy.
Cole, let me think here. Any other questions? Did you prepare any other questions, Orchard Security Guy?
One I thought was quite interesting that I'd like to know during the editing process. Just give us a quick recap of what the day was. You woke up through the day all the way, just so people understand what happens in just one day of doing this after all video and all that stuff is done.
An average day in the life of editing would be, I think a lot of video editors would be in the same boat, that it's kind of nonstop. So maybe wake up at 6:37, drink some coffee, read, pray, journal, meditate, whatever, and then just go to work and sit down and start whittling away at whatever bit you're on. Do that for 5-6 hours, go to the gym and just get out of the house for a minute, and then go back and do it again late into the night. So working hours from maybe 8 to 12, 1, a little bit of a break, and then again from about maybe 4 or 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. There's something about the early hours and the late night hours that are just creatively inspiring, or you feel just kind of undistracted, and you're inspired in those moments. So I mean, it was that for months.
And that's why a lot of times I do all my measurements and stuff early in the morning like that
Yeah.
as well. It's just something about the creativity and being
There were
alone at
times
those
when
hours.
I would be in here at 1 on the way out, and you would be on the way in.
Yeah.
And you would be in here, and when I come back in the morning,
Yeah.
on the way out. It was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't awkward.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
It's a lot of editing.
Cole, is there any way to do it faster?
Tell me if you find one.
Well, part of the reason I asked that is because we just had a meeting this morning, a pre-production meeting to discuss the potential for Breaking Pickleball Part 2. That's 2 in French.
Oh.
This fall, we've got the Arizona Pickleball League coming back for Season 3. The teams, we got a number of returning players. It's looking like we're going to have a number of new players as well. We got to replace Augie Guh. He went to Premier MLP. We also lost Rachel Retker, Patrick Kafka, Angie Walker. Anybody else that I'm
Alex
missing?
Walker.
Alex Walker. Although she didn't get drafted, but she's PPA exclusive. So we're working out some of those things. But do you think it makes sense to do a Breaking Pickleball Part 2? And if yes, what are sort of the challenges that you would see? Because no band wants to make the sequel album be the exact same thing as their first album.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do in the sequel to make Breaking Pickleball Part 2 make people care?
We answered the question in Season 1 of, do people care about this league? The next question is this league here to stay? So it is. There are so many fans of the Arizona Pickleball League. We talked about this morning, there's over 100 applicants to just play in the league. So the demand for this thing is, it's there. You can see it. So people want this thing. How do we make it so that it's here to stay? And a lot of that we talked about this morning is expanding and keeping on climbing the mountain, making sure this bubble that you and Ashley have started to blow up doesn't deflate and the train, loses power and just stops. So getting bigger means expanding. growing, and possibly there's some international speculation of going to other countries apart from the United States. So part 2 is going to be about, it's bigger than just the Arizona Pickleball League. Now there is big picture pickleball here to stay and continuing to impact people's lives, you know.
Do you have any concerns or reservations about Breaking Pickleball Part 2?
Hopefully AI can keep on getting those shots for us. 'Cause I think it was 90% of season 1 was AI generated audio and video.
The truth comes out, folks. We didn't actually hold a single match here at the Orchard. In fact, we're just in front of a green screen right now. This is
It would be
there's nothing
so
here.
cool if the Arizona Pickleball League was real.
It sure would be. Well, I asked you if you have reservations. I will readily admit some reservations and some. I think you use the metaphor of climbing a new mountain, and this is climbing a new mountain. It's similar. I can see us using a lot of the same gear and personnel and the things that we learned along the way, and we're going to work better as a team. But it's a new mountain, and there are going to likely, almost assuredly, be some new hurdles that we haven't even thought of. And I guess I'll say the same thing again. If we're going to absolutely, fail with Arizona Pickleball League Season 3, we should at least get it on tape.
Yeah, I think the biggest worry is now we've done it, and now we got to do better than we did last time. So
That's right. We got to outdo ourselves now.
Yeah, and that's tough. So hopefully we do it. I'll say this that I've been saying too. If we do part 2, and it comes out and you like it, let us know. If you don't, just keep it to yourself.
That's
and that'll
fair.
be best for everybody.
I think that is fair. In the YouTube description for episode 6, Cole, you probably don't even know this, but I wrote in the description, if you like it, I think I wrote, I hope you like it. If not, it's all Cole's fault. So you'll get 100% of the blame from someone, because I guarantee you there's someone out there right now that has watched all 6 episodes and hates it.
My little brother.
He's a real jerk anyways.
Yeah, kid, man, yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, Reese. You don't write that one down.
All right, Reese, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
Breaking Pickleball Hit Squad on the way. Well, I'm excited to explore that story of Breaking Pickleball 2 as we begin to do some more pre-production, as we begin to plan for Arizona Pickleball League this fall. I think it's going to be... Do you realize it's only been barely 2 years since we were designing the Orchard? In April of 2022, we were still messing around with the 3D models and picking paint colors and determining what cameras and focal lengths we would need in this building. Here we are 2 years later recording a podcast together with a director who filmed a documentary and a security guard who has decades of experience that we had no idea.
So during the Reagan administration.
That's right. Not for the Reagan administration.
Just during.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you have been on this journey with us via the podcast, via the documentary, via Tuesday Night Pickleball, I just want to express my heartfelt thanks. And I speak for Ashley and for Monk and Lola as well as the whole production team here, the Orchard Pickleball team and Jigsaw Health. We are delighted that you care, and we are thrilled if you are entertained, because that's really what we're going for. OSG, do you want to take it off? Take it off.
I'm gonna wrap it up.
Let's do some different verbs.
So we should wrap it up. Pickleballers, you may be wondering what experience would OSG have with that would possibly relate to a pickleball documentary. In all my years dealing with security, I've sifted through thousands and thousands of hours of 16K, 8K, 4K, 1080p, 720p, even 8mm video footage. I listened to endless hours of MP3, 4, 5, and some 6 and 7 audio files. And trying to sync an MP5 audio with 16K video, it's tedious, but it's necessary sometimes. Precision. For OSG, it's defined as a tension meter. Yeah, I have one of those. Micrometer, laser level, binoculars, a lupe. That's a high power magnifying glass. But the technical specifications for Cole and the production crew here at Jigsaw Health is defined as the quality, condition, or fact of being exact and precise. The countless hours of precision detail his team has done putting together 6 incredible episodes of Breaking Pickleball. Pickleballers, documentaries are like fine red wine or a nice smoked brisket. Even growing agave for tequila takes 7 years, by the way. It takes time. And well, it's time, pickleballers. It's time. It's time to binge watch the 2024 sports documentary of the year, Breaking Pickleball. Rallies, rivalries, and rubber chickens. Until the next episode, good night.